My beloved, if you feel forgotten by miracles, it is not because they have passed you by, it is because you have passed by your own light. If you feel that heaven's wonders are reserved for others, for the more perfect, the more spiritual, the more chosen, it is only because you have listened to the voice of the ego more than the voice of the soul. Let me tell you the sacred truth. You were not born to chase miracles. You were not sent to beg for crumbs of divine favor. You were sent to radiate a light so powerful, so pure, so still, that heaven cannot help but respond to it. You were not made to live with low energy, dimmed breath, dull eyes. You were not designed to collapse into a tired life of sameness. You are a spark of the infinite, disguised in form, meant to live in spiritual voltage. And when your energy rises, not just physically, but vibrationally, you become a living magnet for the grace of God. Why do so many souls fail to see the miraculous in their lives? Not because God is withheld, but because they are asleep to the energy of divine flow. Miracles are not external tricks performed by heaven. They are responses to your inward alignment. When your consciousness is low, heavy with restlessness, saturated with overthinking, clouded by doubt, you cannot see the blessings swirling around you. You cannot feel the gentle movements of spirit. It is not that the wind has stopped blowing. It is that your sails have not been raised. I have seen this in many souls who once knew joy, who once felt the inner current flowing upward, but who now slump under the invisible weight of worldly exhaustion. Their spine droops, their gaze lowers, their breath is shallow, their thoughts repeat endlessly, and they wonder why miracles seem distant, but the miracle has not left them. They have left the center where miracles appear. Let me speak to the sacred instrument within you, the spine. When your energy is low, when your body is collapsed, when your breath is unaware, your prana, your divine life force, flows downward. It pools in the lower centers of fear, survival, emotional reaction. But when you sit upright, when your breath begins to move with reverence, when your gaze lifts toward the spiritual eye, the miracle begins again. Not because something new arrives, but because you have returned to the altitude where miracles are already flowing. You see, beloved, a lamp that is unplugged cannot blame the darkness. A seed buried beneath the soil must stretch upward to feel the sun. A magnet covered in dust may forget its pull, but the pull remains. The miracle is not somewhere else. It is waiting in you, behind the noise, beneath the tiredness, under the veil of daily forgetfulness, and your energy is the key. Let us not speak of energy as mere physical charge. Let us speak of spiritual voltage, the vibration of your consciousness, your thoughts, your breath, your posture, your inner gaze. All of these either raise you into divine receptivity or sink you into spiritual amnesia. The universe does not reward effort alone. It responds to vibration, and miracles are not attracted by need. They are magnetized by attunement. So now I ask you, if the miracle you seek is already circling you, why haven't you felt it? What is the low energy within that has dimmed your magnetism? What is leaking the light from your system? Come with me now into the next sacred revelation. Let us expose the false self, the one that chases light but blocks its flow. Beloved soul, the miracles of God are not denied to you, but they are often delayed by you, not because the Father withholds his gifts, but because your house is not ready to receive them. You have been asking for divine presence while unknowingly leaving the doors and windows of your inner temple wide open to the winds of distraction, fear, and worldly noise. You do not need more blessings, you need fewer leaks. Before we can raise your energy, we must find where it is being lost. The false self, the ego-created mask you wear in the world, is the architect of your energetic leaks. It tells you that you must keep performing, pleasing, worrying, reacting, and striving. It convinces you that miracles are outside you, and that you must chase after them, out in the shifting sands of the world. But each time you give your attention to what is not aligned with your soul, you lose a little more of your sacred voltage. Each time you argue, complain, compare, or dwell on fear, you are like a vessel cracked and leaking divine nectar drop by drop. It is not punishment, it is simply law. Energy follows attention, and attention flowing toward untruth creates restlessness, fatigue, and spiritual forgetfulness. How is your energy leaking today? Let me show you gently, as one who sees the soul behind the struggle. You lose energy through overthinking, the compulsive mental spinning that never returns you to stillness. Each thought unchecked becomes a ripple across the pool of your inner perception. When your thoughts race, your breath follows. When your breath shortens, the prana sinks, and when prana sinks, the divine magnet weakens. You lose energy through sensory overindulgence, when your eyes, ears, and taste chase stimulation instead of sacredness. The nervous system becomes overwhelmed. The spine, once straight and luminous, begins to slump beneath invisible weight. You become reactive, and your aura dims. How can miracles enter when the temple is filled with noise? You lose energy through fear and doubt, the twin thieves that rob your spiritual inheritance. Fear causes contraction in the solar plexus. Doubt causes tension in the brow. Both send messages to your entire system. I am separate. I am unsupported. And the moment you identify with separation, you leave the vibration where miracles appear. Your miracle has not been denied, but your channel has been clogged with counterfeit currents. The divine cannot be forced through a body tense with grasping or a mind tangled in thought. It waits, patiently, lovingly, for you to become still, clear, upright, for you to remember who you are. The false self cannot attract miracles because it does not vibrate with truth. It vibrates with need, but God responds to essence, not craving. God answers the soul, not the mask. Let us unmask you now. You are not the anxious one. You are not the tired one. You are not the one always reaching and never receiving. You are not the shadow. You are the sunlight that casts no shadow at all. Say now with me, not to fight the false self, but to rise above it. I return my energy to the soul. Say it again, slowly, as you breathe into your spine. I return my energy to the soul. And in this return, the leaks begin to seal, the breath begins to lengthen, the eyes begin to soften, and something ancient and holy stirs within you, not a new self, but the eternal self. Come now with me. Let us unveil the truth not just of what you are not, but of what you already are. Step into the third flame of revelation. Your soul is already a miracle. Beloved, listen closely. There is a presence in you that has never wept, a silence in you that no noise can disturb, a light in you that has never flickered, even in your darkest hour. You do not need to become miraculous. You need only to remove the veil that has hidden the miracle of your true being. You were not born to seek magic. You were sent as a fragment of the infinite, wrapped in skin, crowned with consciousness, and pulsing with a current that no sin, no mistake, no worldly failure can erase. You are the soul, and the soul is already a miracle. Think not of miracles as rare interruptions of natural law. A miracle is not some dramatic event sent to startle the faithless. A miracle is simply the natural result of divine alignment. When your energy vibrates with your true nature, when your thoughts echo the rhythm of divine will, when your breath moves in harmony with the spine's upward pull, you do not chase miracles. You become the condition where they arise. You are not a beggar before the gate of heaven. You are the temple. You are not the plea. You are the prayer. Your soul was not created to scrape by in fatigue and longing. It was created to emanate the fragrance of divine remembrance. And when you remember who you are, you do not just raise your energy. You raise the entire vibration of the space around you. The plants feel it. The animals feel it. Even the air becomes more still in your presence. This is not pride. This is not performance. This is the natural radiance of the realized soul. The saints did not work miracles from ego. They did not demand heaven to obey. They became so inwardly attuned, so still, so full of God consciousness that the world bent around their vibration, not because they were special, but because they were empty of all that was not truth. And so must you be, not perfect, but available, not sinless, but surrendered, not grand, but grounded in silence. Let me remind you now of your true nature, not to flatter you, but to free you. Say with me, I am already enough for miracles to happen. Again, let this not be a thought, but a breath-shaped vow. I am already enough for miracles to happen. Now say this, from the soul's memory, God flows through my energy. Again, God flows through my energy. Let your nervous system hear this. Let your spine become alert. Let your breath stretch long and sacred. You do not need to do more. You need to remember more. You do not need to accumulate. You must release. For as the false self falls away, the miracle appears, not from outside you, but from the very fabric of your being. Now, beloved, with your soul unveiled, with the dust falling away from your inner magnet, let us move deeper, not into emotion, but into divine alignment, the sacred physics that governs spiritual attraction. Beloved, the universe is not chaotic, it is not random, it is not governed by moods or chance or the blind dance of fate. Beneath all forms, behind all movement, there lives a quiet, eternal rhythm. This rhythm is not mechanical, it is consciousness, it is law, it is the heartbeat of the infinite organizing the stars, shaping the birth of galaxies, and whispering your next breath into motion. The same law that keeps suns aflame also governs your soul. And to raise your energy and attract miracles, you must no longer plead, you must align. Alignment is not striving. Alignment is not performance. Alignment is the art of becoming still enough, inward enough, devoted enough to match the frequency of divine intelligence already moving through creation. When you align your body with uprightness, your breath with reverence, and your mind with soul vision, you do not climb toward God. God flows through you, unimpeded. The science of Kriya Yoga reveals this alignment with precise grace. When your breath is calmed, when prana is withdrawn from the outer senses and drawn inward through the spine, the energy begins to ascend. The wandering mind returns home. The restless heart finds its rhythm. The nervous system, once the battleground of emotion and thought, becomes a shining river of divine current. And through this inward ascent, the soul reunites with the beloved, not in metaphor, but in vibration. Miracles are not summoned by words. They are magnetized by vibration. Just as a radio picks up only the station it is tuned to, your consciousness can only receive what it is aligned with. You may say, I want peace, but if your body is tense, your breath shallow, and your thoughts scattered, you are not tuned to the frequency of peace. You are tuned to restlessness. And the universe, like the radio, delivers exactly what you are set to receive. Kriya Yoga is the method of attunement. It is not superstition, it is spiritual physics. As you draw the breath up the spine, you lift the energy out of the lower chakras, out of fear, out of lust, out of anger, and into the throne of divine intuition. You begin to see not through the lens of ego, but through the window of spirit. And when that vision is awakened, your entire life begins to shift, not by manipulation, but by magnetism. When I said that Kriya is the airplane path to God, I meant that it bypasses the long wanderings of theory and doubt. It leads directly through the channel of divine law encoded in your own being. The breath is the wind, the spine is the path, the attention is the compass, and God is the destination, already within you. So I ask you now, dear one, not to try harder, but to align deeper. Sit straight, close your eyes, lift your gaze, not in tension, but in love. Breathe with reverence, and in that moment you are no longer separate from the miracle. You are the temple where the miracle arrives. Say with me, to entrain your soul to divine alignment. I do not force miracles, I align with them. Again, with deep breath and upright spine, I do not force miracles, I align with them. And now, let us go from knowing to doing. Let us make this alignment daily, practical, and devotional. In the next temple gate, I will show you 3 simple spiritual rituals that raise your energy and prepare your life for the grace you were always meant to receive. Beloved, knowledge without practice is like a lamp never lit. It may contain oil, it may hold the wick, it may be beautifully crafted, but without the flame, it serves no light. In the same way, now that you understand the law of divine alignment, you must live it, not as a theory, but as a sacred rhythm. A single drop of daily inner practice is worth more than 1,000 scattered intentions. You do not need to perform great austerities. You need only to return, gently, silently, repeatedly, to the inner temple where God's current waits to be felt. Let me now give you 3 simple rituals, 3 devotional practices that will raise your energy, awaken your inner magnetism, and align you with the frequency of miracles. These are not chores. These are ceremonies of the soul offered daily to your true self. 1. Morning. 5 minutes of spinal breath and spiritual gaze. Before you rise into the noise of the world, rise into yourself. Upon waking, do not reach for the phone, the list, the doing. Sit upright on your bed or cushion. Close your eyes and gently lift your gaze to the spiritual eye, the Christ center, the divine seat between the eyebrows. Let your breath grow silent and deep. Inhale slowly, feel the prana draw upward through the spine. Exhale and release any downward pull. Do this for 5 minutes. Let your first breath of the day be a return to God, not to thought. Let the spine become the pillar of light before you say a word to the world. Miracles begin not with asking, but with receiving this posture of soul offering. 2. Midday. Recentering breath and inner affirmation. As the sun climbs and the hours unfold their activity, you will feel your energy being drawn outward, through action, through conversation, through thought. This is natural, but not irreversible. At some point midday, perhaps at lunch, or in a quiet moment between tasks, pause, even for 1 minute. Close your eyes. Take a single slow breath into your spine. Feel your attention lift, even briefly. Then whisper inwardly, I rise, I align, I attract what is already mine in God. Repeat it thrice. This is not superstition. It is a vibration. It re-centers you. It reminds the soul that the outward life is not the source. It reclaims the moment. It says to the divine, I am still listening. Third evening, releasing energy with gratitude and breath. As the day draws to a close, the nervous system holds all the currents it has gathered. If you do not return those currents to the infinite, they will cloud your sleep and enter tomorrow's vibration. So each night before bed, sit once again. Let the breath be soft, the gaze lifted, the spine straight. Reflect on what the day gave you, not in judgment, but in gratitude. Then inhale, and as you exhale, release all tension, all effort, all grasping. Let your final prayer be this. All energy returns to God. Again, all energy returns to God. Let sleep become a form of surrender, not unconsciousness. Let your dreams be shaped by your soul's vibration, not your restless mind. These 3 practices, if offered sincerely, not mechanically, will begin to transform your energy field. They will not force miracles, but they will welcome them. And soon you will notice, people are drawn to your peace. Opportunities appear with less effort. Your body feels lighter. Your thoughts feel more sacred. This is not fantasy. This is the law of divine attunement. Say now with me, as a sacred rhythm to carry into your daily life, each breath raises me. Each thought aligns me. Each day prepares me for miracles. And again, each breath raises me. Each thought aligns me. Each day prepares me for miracles. And now, beloved, come with me into the final chamber, not just to remember what to do, but to remember what you are. Let us now seal this journey with the affirmation of your eternal identity. Beloved soul, now that you have turned inward, now that you have tasted the stillness behind striving, now that your spine remembers the direction of the divine and your breath has become a prayer, you are ready for the final and most sacred realization. You attract not by asking, not by wanting, not by striving, but by becoming. The miracles you long for are not rewards to be won. They are reflections of your vibration, answers to the song your soul is singing at every moment. When you become the melody of God, the universe begins to dance in rhythm with you. Let go now of the egoic pattern that says you must hustle for love, effort your way to peace, or clamor for divine favor. These are the distortions of the false self which believes it is separate from the source. But you are not separate. You have never been. You are the child of the infinite, the echo of the eternal spirit. And when you align with your divine identity, the entire fabric of creation bends to meet you, not through force but through recognition. You attract what you are. If you walk in restlessness, you magnetize chaos. If you walk in fear, you call in the very conditions that reflect that fear. But when you walk as the soul, miracles come as quietly and naturally as the sunrise. They are not loud. They are not dramatic. They are divinely timed movements of grace, flowing into the life of one who has remembered who they are. This is not about pretending. It is not about masking pain with positivity. It is about anchoring into the truth deeper than your pain. The soul within you is already whole. already radiant, already in union with God, and from that identity flows the magnetism of light. So now let us declare, not from the ego but from the spirit within us, this final decree of identity. Say it slowly, with full breath, with gaze lifted, as a radiant soul returning to its throne. I do not chase, I shine. Again, feel the simplicity. I do not chase, I shine. Now, more deeply, I attract by radiance, not by need. Again, more softly, more surely. I attract by radiance, not by need. And now the highest seal. I am the soul, and miracles walk toward me. One final time. I am the soul, and miracles walk toward me. Feel that not as a thought, but as a presence descending into your spine, your breath, your aura. You were never without the power. You were simply misdirected. And now, the direction has been restored. From this moment forward, walk not as the seeker, but as the finder. Speak not as the one who hopes, but as the one who knows. Live not from exhaustion, but from stillness lifted to light. Beloved, your energy is your message to the universe, and when that energy is still, surrendered, and saturated with God, the doors you thought were closed open without effort. The miracles you once longed for begin to appear, not as surprise, but as the natural inheritance of the soul who walks in truth. Let this be your new signature in the world, not performance, but presence, not striving, but shining. And now, come with me into the final seal, a breath, a vow, a return to the inner magnet. Beloved, as we come to the close of this holy unfolding, I ask you not to depart with more ideas, but with more stillness, not with more desire, but with more devotion. You do not need another technique. You need a breath that is sacred. You need a gaze that is lifted. You need a life aligned with the frequency of the eternal. This is not the end. This is your return to the inner magnet, the radiant force of your awakened soul. The world may continue to rush, to tremble, to forget, but you now carry within you a secret, a vibration, a clarity, a path. You are no longer a vessel for tension. You are no longer a seeker of scattered blessings. You are the temple where miracles gather. So I ask you now, as your brother in the light, as one who has walked the spine into God, to pause. Yes, even now. Close your eyes. Sit with your spine upright. Draw the breath in slowly, reverently, through the nostrils. Feel it rise, not just as air, but as spirit. Feel it brush against the inner stairway of the spine, as though knocking on the gates of heaven. And as you exhale, lift your gaze, not in strain, but in silent remembrance, to the spiritual eye. And now speak, not from the mouth alone, but from the center of your being. I attract only what aligns with my soul. Again, as a vow before God and your own higher self, I attract only what aligns with my soul. This is the mantra of the magnetic one. This is the seal of the soul who no longer begs for miracles, but walks in the atmosphere where miracles unfold naturally. Let this be your vow in the unseen moments, in the silent mornings, in the hidden pauses between worldly tasks. Let this become your breath, your frequency, your offering. And now, dear one, if your soul has heard its name in this message, if something inside you has lifted, not through emotion, but through vibration, I invite you to seal this remembrance publicly. Leave your vow below, not as a comment for others, but as an anchor for your own transformation. Write, I am the magnet of divine miracles. Let that be your witness to the world, not as a boast, but as a blessing, not as noise, but as truth encoded in light. Go now, not to do more, but to be more aware. Walk not heavier, but more wholly. Breathe not quickly, but quietly. Sit each day with the spine upright and the breath silent, and know the divine is not delayed. It has been waiting inside you all along. You are the soul, you are the silence, you are the magnet, and the miracle is already on its way.
What if the deepest wounds of your life, the heartbreak that split your chest open, the loneliness that sat beside you in silence, the betrayals, the losses, the strange yearning you've never been able to name were not punishments from fate, but sacred pages in a script your soul wrote before you were born? What if the worst things that happened to you were things your soul said yes to? You may feel a resistance rising in you as you hear these words. That resistance is the echo of forgetting. For there is something you knew once, beyond time, in the place before form. And now your soul aches not for answers but for remembrance. That ache, beloved, is not confusion. It is your spiritual memory pressing against the walls of your earthly life. You were never meant to live blind, tossed by the waves of karma, without compass or clarity. No, you were sent with a purpose, and you chose the vehicle through which that purpose would unfold. The family, the patterns, the gifts, the challenges, even the silence. All of it is sacred architecture. But you have forgotten. You walk this world with a divine amnesia. You wonder why you struggle, why the same pain circles back again and again, why the people closest to you seem to trigger the oldest wounds. And deep inside, something whispers, I chose this. But the mind pushes that voice away. It says, no, I would never choose this. Ah, but the soul is not the mind. The soul does not choose comfort. The soul chooses growth. The soul does not seek ease. It seeks expansion. The soul is not trying to make you safe. It is trying to make you free. So here you are, living the life you once agreed to. Not out of punishment, but out of participation. You are not a victim of your story. You are the author of its most hidden chapters. You walked into this body with the ink of eternity still wet on your spiritual scroll. And though the veil of my illusion has drawn itself over your vision, there is a place in you that has never forgotten. And it is that place I now speak to. Let these words not pass through your ears alone. Let them strike the deep bell in your heart that has waited lifetimes to hear this truth. You chose this incarnation, not because you had to, but because you were ready. You were ready to return to earth, not for pleasure, not for pride, not to repeat old patterns, but to fulfill something sacred. A vow, a lesson, a love, a liberation. You sat with divine presence before your descent and said, send me. I will carry the burden. I will walk the storm. I will forget who I am, so I may remember even more deeply. This remembering is not a sudden flash. It is not a single insight. It is a sacred unfolding. And it begins here with the courage to believe that your life is not random. That every sorrow carries the signature of a greater design. You are not broken. You are being initiated. In the next chapter, I will take you deeper into the radiant realm where your soul made its contract. You knew, you chose, you came. There is a realm beyond time, a shining cathedral of light where no pain can reach and no shadow can touch. It is from this sacred sanctuary that your soul came forth not as a lost wanderer cast into the chaos of earth, but as a conscious pilgrim, radiant with eternal knowing. Before the cries of your first breath, before the shaping of your body in the womb, before even the stars of this life sky blinked awake for you, you knew. You knew why you were coming. You knew the parents you would choose not for their perfection, but for the karmic mirror they would become. You saw their wounds, you saw their strengths. And still, your soul whispered to the divine, yes, this is where I must begin. And you did not come alone. In that pre-birth temple, you stood not only before God, but before the hosts of angels, soul guides, beloveds from past lives. Some would walk beside you in this incarnation as teachers, some as lovers, some as thorns. But in that space, all was understood. All was love. Even those who would wound you agreed to wear the mask of pain so that your soul might grow in strength, forgiveness, and compassion. There was no fear there. Only clarity. Only a golden script written in vibration and light. And it was there, in that silence saturated with truth, that your soul reviewed the scroll of its past lives. You saw where you had turned away from love and where you had clung to light. You saw lessons left incomplete. You saw gifts unused. You saw patterns still circling like rivers seeking the ocean. And then, with full awareness, you chose. You chose the body that would carry you. You chose the time of your arrival, the land, the culture, the pain that would humble you, and the longings that would point you back to God. With divine presence before you, your soul said, I am ready to awaken through this. This is what I call the soul contract, not a cold agreement written in law, but a devotional blueprint drawn by the soul and signed in sacred surrender. Not punishment, not randomness, but profound participation in your own evolution. Just as a climber chooses the mountain not because it is easy, but because it will change him, so your soul chose the steep paths of this life to remember how to fly. I have seen this truth not only in visions, but in the lives of saints and seekers. In the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord reminds Arjuna, "Never was there a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor all these kings, nor in the future shall any of us cease to be." This verse is not poetic metaphor, it is the testimony of your soul's eternity. You are not new. You are not small. You are not defined by what you can recall with your mind. You are an eternal being who once stood before God and said yes. You are a soul who knew that through trial would come transformation, through forgetting would come sacred remembering, through sorrow would rise sovereignty. So now, I ask you to sit for a moment in silence and not with judgment, but with awe. Breathe gently and say to yourself, "Before I was born, I knew." Say it again. Before I was born, I knew. Say it not as a hope, but as a declaration of memory. Let that mantra begin to dissolve the illusion of randomness. Let it peel back the veil. For you are not waking up for the first time. You are reawakening to a truth you already wrote. Let us now move into the next sacred Veltha, forgetting. For if your soul knew, why did you forget? You ask, if my soul chose this life with such care, such clarity, such sacred purpose, why do I not remember? Beloved, this is the great paradox of incarnation. For just as the seed must forget the tree it once was in order to grow again through the dark soil, so must the soul forget its eternity in order to experience awakening within time. This forgetting is not a flaw. It is a divine necessity. It is called Maya, the veil of cosmic illusion that conceals the fullness of spirit, so that the soul may rediscover God through longing, through effort, through surrender. Without Maya, there would be no journey. Without darkness, no revelation of light. If the child were born already remembering the lessons, would the lessons hold power? If the actor stepped onto the stage already knowing the end, would the play have meaning? Maya blinds the mind, not the soul. The soul remembers. The soul never forgets. It carries the fragrance of every lifetime in its subtle body, stirred not in neurons or cells, but in vibration, in the hidden chambers of the spine, in the divine recesses of the heart's astral petals. But the mind, the temporary host of this lifetime, does not have access to that library without preparation. And yet, the echoes remain. You have felt them. A city you have never visited that moves you to tears. A stranger whose eyes strike a familiar ache. A dream that leaves you weeping in the morning without knowing why. These are soul fragments speaking through the cracks in the veil. These are memories trying to surface through the sea of forgetfulness. Maya dims the lamp, but does not extinguish the flame. There is a reason the ancient rishis taught silence, stillness, breath control, and devotion, not to earn salvation, but to clear the mirror so that divine memory might return. You must not try to recall your soul contract through intellect. That is the wrong tool. You must use consciousness, the still intuitive light that lives beyond the ego's grip. Think of a divine actor stepping onto a stage. He has written the play with God, chosen his costume, set the scene. But when the curtain rises, he must forget the script. Not to abandon it, but to live it. In that sacred forgetting, he becomes real. He falls, he cries, he loves, he stumbles. And then, one day, a line from the soul's script stirs in his heart, and the remembering begins. So too with you. You are living your sacred script not in full knowledge, but in divine concealment, so that the remembering will not be mere information, but transformation. So that when you remember, you will change. Beloved, the forgetting was an act of courage. You trusted that even in the fog of earth, you would find your way back to the light. You trusted that even when the heart would break, the soul would remain intact. You trusted that one day, in one life, under one sky, you would begin to remember. And here you are. Not by accident. Hearing these words is not coincidence. Something in you is stirring. That is not imagination. That is revelation. Let us now descend more deeply into the wounds you carry, into the pain that has followed you. For within those shadows lie the brightest clues to your contract. There is a sorrow that follows you, a wound you cannot name, A weight that seems to return in every chapter, dressed in different forms, speaking through different faces but always carrying the same echo. Why must I feel this again? Beloved, your pain is not a punishment. It is a message, and it has been following you because it is part of what you came here to heal. When your soul sat in divine stillness before this life, it did not ask for comfort. It asked for clarity. It asked for purification. It asked to be shaped by the sculptor's hands until all that was false fell away. And pain, strange as it may sound, is often the most efficient tool of awakening. Do not fear your pain. Study it. It is your soul's ink, still fresh on the parchment of your life. You see, every deep emotional imprint, the recurring heartbreaks, the betrayals, the restless longing, the unexplainable griefs, these are not interruptions to your spiritual path. They are your spiritual path. They are imprints, vibrational echoes from past incarnations, karmic residues that must now be met, felt, purified. Perhaps you feel a sorrow around your family, as though you were born into a pattern of chaos or silence that your heart never understood. Perhaps you have always longed for love, but attracted those who mirrored your deepest wounds instead. Or maybe you feel called to something invisible, a mission you cannot name, and this yearning both inspires and torments you. These are soul clues. Each wound is a brushstroke in the portrait of your soul contract. They are not random occurrences to be avoided or erased. They are invitations to look deeper, to remember what you asked for when you chose this incarnation. And yes, you chose even that. Your greatest pain is often a doorway to your greatest transformation. You chose certain relationships to reflect back your shadow so you could finally face it. You chose certain limits not to remain confined, but so you could transcend them from within. You chose even the losses so you could learn the permanence of love beyond form. Let me offer you a metaphor. Imagine your soul contract as a divine manuscript written in golden ink. The joys are there, yes, but the most emphasized passages are the wounds you agreed to feel again in this life, so you could respond to them differently, not with fear, not with blame, but with consciousness. The child who was abandoned came to learn divine self-reliance. The one betrayed came to learn unconditional love. The soul who lost everything came to learn eternal anchoring in spirit. Each pain is a lesson remembered. Each ache is a thread back to your vow. Take a moment now. Close your eyes. Place your hand over your heart. Bring into your awareness the one sorrow that never seems to fully leave. The one area of your life that has felt heavy across the years. Do not try to solve it. Just hold it gently and say, "This pain has purpose. My soul chose this to awaken me." Feel what arises. Feel what shifts. This is the beginning of remembrance. Do not be afraid to feel deeply. The soul speaks through feeling far more than words. And your feeling is the compass pointing to the very part of your contract that is most active, most alive, most ready to be transformed. From here, let us continue to another sacred marker on your soul's path, not just the pain you felt, but the place you were born into. You were not placed on this earth by accident. The longitude of your childhood, the soil beneath your feet, the nation whose tongue shaped your early prayers, these were not coincidences. They were coordinates marked on your soul's contract long before your body ever opened its eyes. You were born where you were because that land holds lessons, vibrations, and karmic currents aligned with your sacred evolution. The very earth beneath your birth holds memory, not only yours, but collective karmas woven through generations, tribes, civilizations. And your soul, drawn by divine magnetism, chose its entry point not for ease but for meaning. Perhaps you were born into a family line haunted by silence, addiction, or poverty. Perhaps you inherited the echo of wars or cultural oppression. Or perhaps your homeland pulses with an ancient beauty that moves you in ways you cannot name. These are not burdens to escape or privileges to ignore. They are invitations to remember, to reclaim, to redeem. This is what I call sacred geography. Your soul is magnetized toward the vibrational conditions it needs to awaken. Just as a musician must return to the instrument where his unfinished song still lingers, so the soul returns to the places where its growth was paused, where love was withheld, or where purpose was once abandoned. You did not simply end up where you are. Your soul aligned with an energetic frequency, a landscape, a culture, a karmic field that would mirror both your wounds and your potential. Even I, in my own journey, was born into the holy land of India, not because it was superior, but because it contained the vibrations that were necessary for me to remember my spiritual mission. It was there, in the stillness of ashrams and under the gaze of my guru, that the seed of God remembrance was nurtured again. And yet, I was also drawn to the Westo America because my contract was not only to awaken, but to serve. The land of my future disciples held its own karma, its own thirst for truth. So my soul was called to return again to the world, not to remain cloaked in Himalayan silence, but to bring the silence into the world. In the same way, you may be called to your homeland to heal it, or to leave it to fulfill your mission elsewhere. There are no fixed rules, only vibrational laws. Sometimes a soul is born into a lineage to break it, to end cycles of violence or silence. Other times, the soul is born to continue a mission left unfinished in another body. Another time, some souls return to sacred sites where they once walked as monks, mothers, martyrs, or mystics. Have you ever wept in a temple you'd never seen before? Or felt a strange reverence for a city or forest as if it once knew your name? That is not fantasy. That is memory. Beloved, look around your environment. Reflect on your birthplace. What energies surround it? What blessings? What challenges? What history lives in its soil? These elements are not separate from your soul, they are part of your story's architecture. Let us now begin to ask not only why we were born, but how we begin to remember what we chose. Remembrance does not thunder into the soul. It arrives like a fragrance on still air. It comes when the waters of the mind are calm enough to reflect the light of your deeper nature. You cannot chase the memory of your soul contract. You must invite it with reverence, with stillness, with surrender. The first sign that you are beginning to remember is not a vision or a dream. It is a subtle feeling of ancient familiarity, a quiet, knowing that something you are doing, or someone you are meeting, or somewhere you are standing, is part of a pattern much older than this body. Have you ever sat in stillness and felt tears rise for no reason? Have you ever heard a name that lit your heart like a torch? Have you ever gazed at the stars and felt both homesick and whole? These are not emotions. These are remnant shards of your soul contract rising through the veil of Maya. And so I urge you, dear one, to begin with stillness. Not as an escape, but as a portal. Create a space where the noise of the world and the voice of the ego are quieted. It may be only 5 minutes in the morning. It may be just one breath before sleep. But in that moment, whisper a sacred invocation not to an external deity, but to your own indwelling self. Show me the life I chose. Show me the vow I made with you. And then listen, not with your ears, but with your being. The soul rarely speaks in sentences. It speaks through symbols, through synchronicities, through sensations that bypass the mind. A book will fall off a shelf. A stranger will say a phrase that strikes like lightning. A memory will return, not from this life, but from a place you've never seen and yet have always known. These are not signs to decode like puzzles. They are threads. Follow them, record them, respect them. I recommend journaling as a sacred act, not to analyze, but to receive. Begin with this question: what has always felt anciently familiar to me? Write freely. Do not censor. Your soul will guide your pen. Also, observe your reactions. When you feel a wave of sorrow that does not seem to belong to the present moment, pause. Close your eyes. Place your hand on your heart. Ask gently, what is this connected to? You may not hear an answer, but the asking itself begins to loosen the veil. The practice of remembrance is not a dramatic event. It is a daily return to soul attunement. In deep meditation, many of my disciples have remembered fragments of past lives, missions, and soul vows not because they sought them, but because they became quiet enough to be shown. One remembered being a healer in Egypt, another, a warrior in ancient Bharat. But always, the purpose of remembering was not to boast or cling it, was to complete the lesson, to reawaken the virtue that was buried. Your life right now is giving you all the hints. The faces that stir your heart, the patterns that persist, the places that call to you, all of these are gentle echoes from the sacred scroll you signed in the ether of divine light. So do not demand memory. Prepare for it. It is not found in the noise, it is found in the hush of the soul. And when memory comes, it brings alignment. Which is where we now turn to what happens when you begin to walk in full union with the path your soul chose before time. There is a moment in the life of every soul when confusion begins to burn away, and what remains is not certainty but clarity. The path ahead may still wind and narrow, but it glows. The heart no longer runs in circles, asking, "Why am I here?" but walks in stillness, whispering, "Yes, this is it. This is the beginning of divine alignment." When you remember even just a sliver of why your soul came to this earth, something shifts inside you. You no longer measure your success by worldly trophies, but by inward fulfillment. You no longer chase things you are drawn, magnetized, summoned by an inner gravity that feels both gentle and irresistible. This is the soul stepping back into its assignment. And when you do, the universe begins to conspire not for comfort, but for confirmation. You begin to notice synchronicities. The right words come through unexpected mouths. A stranger's gaze carries the warmth of an old friend. Doors open not because you force them, but because your vibration is now matching the pattern of your soul's chosen path. You are not being rewarded, you are being realigned. Let me speak to you plainly. You do not have to create your destiny. You only need to remember it. The script was written in light before you ever drew breath. But it can only unfold when you stop resisting the role you agreed to play. There is peace in this surrender, not a weak peace, but a holy power. And you will know you are aligned when even your difficulties begin to feel meaningful, when your suffering no longer feels senseless, when your heart begins to carry joy without a reason. This is not fantasy. It is Kriya path of disciplined remembrance. In Kriya Yoga, the breath is stilled, the ego dissolved, the soul's vibration heightened. It is in this sacred silence that the contract written between your soul and spirit becomes audible once more, not in words, but in knowing. And so I offer you a simple affirmation known that I have whispered often in the still chambers of my inner communion. I am ready to walk the path I chose. I am not afraid. I did not come here by accident. Let thy will, which is also my soul's will, be done through me. Say it not with trembling, but with devotion. Let your life no longer be a random sequence of efforts and ends. Let it be a return to what your soul already decided, a return to what God whispered into your heart before you wore a name. This is what it means to walk in alignment, not to escape the world, but to walk through it without forgetting who you are and why you came. And now, let us bring this remembrance into action not by doing more, but by saying less with deeper power. Come now into stillness. Wherever you are, close your eyes. Let the noise of the world fall away like leaves in the autumn wind. Let your shoulders relax. Let your spine become straight, a living altar to the divine. Bring your attention inward, not to the thoughts, but to the space between them. Breathe in slowly, and as you inhale, say within, "I am not this pain." Hold the breath gently. Feel the sacred pause between becoming and being. And as you exhale, say within, "I am the one who chose this lesson." Let it echo. Let it melt into your bones. Again, breathe in. I remember now. Exhale. I chose this life to awaken. Feel the vibration of those words. They are not affirmations. They are ancient keys. Each syllable unlocks a hidden door in your consciousness. Each phrase aligns your will with the divine will that wrote your soul's story before the world knew your name. Now, breathe again, not with effort, but with surrender. And say from the depth of your being, "Beloved, let my soul fulfill what it came to do." Let this be your prayer, not just tonight, but every night. Say it before sleep, when the body releases and the soul hovers close to the astral realm. Say it in the morning, when you remember to begin again. Say it when life breaks you open. Say it when joy surprises you. Say it when you feel lost and when you feel found. Because you have never truly been lost. You have only been forgetting. And now, beloved soul, you are remembering. Not because of this voice or these words, but because something inside you is ready. Something inside you is stirring. The seed has cracked open beneath the soil of your awareness, and the light is beginning to reach it. Do not rush. Do not doubt. Simply stay with it. Your soul contract was never written in fear. It was written in love. It was not given as a test, it was chosen as a sacred agreement between you and the infinite. And now, you are ready to fulfill it. May your remembrance grow brighter with each breath. May your path become clearer with each moment of stillness. And may the one who walks beside you in every lifetime now rise within you, guiding your steps, your words, your heart, until you become not just a seeker, but the very flame of awakening itself. This is my blessing upon you. And now, return to the world not as one confused by fate, but as one aligned with divine remembrance. Beloved ones, if you wish to know the greatest thief of your spiritual peace, the silent destroyer of your soul's divine remembrance, do not first look at the outside world with its noise, its struggles, and its endless distractions. Instead, turn inward and see how your own restless mind has become your master, how it whispers incessantly, filling the sanctuary of your inner temple with clamor, not allowing the voice of God to be heard. Many believe that their suffering comes from others or from cruel fate, but I tell you truly, the most dangerous storm is not outside. It is the whirlwind of uncontrolled thoughts that drag the soul away from spirit, chaining it to the illusions of Maya. The mind, untamed and unguarded, is like a wild horse galloping toward the edge of a cliff, dragging behind it the chariot of your soul. Unless you learn to guide and still this horse, it will lead you to destruction, not only in this life but in many lives to come. This is not an exaggeration but a spiritual law. The Bhagavad Gita, eternal scripture of divine wisdom, says, "The mind is the friend of the self when controlled, but the enemy of the self when uncontrolled." How many nights have you lain awake, unable to silence the barrage of fears, memories, and imagined futures? How many prayers have been blocked because your thoughts ran faster than your faith? How often have you felt torn in countless directions by doubts and restless desires, as though you were a leaf caught in a stormy wind with no roots to anchor you? When the mind is restless, the soul is veiled, and you cannot see or hear the divine who waits patiently within you. The restless mind distorts truth. It makes shadows look like mountains, and divine opportunities appear as threats. It steals your prana, your life force, scattering it into countless useless channels until your body grows weary and your spirit feels drained. The noisy mind is like a lake, whipped by furious windsit, cannot reflect the light of heaven. And if this continues, if you let thought upon thought spin endlessly without spiritual mastery, you lose connection with your own essence. The soul forgets its origin in God and becomes hypnotized by false identities, false cravings, false fears. This is how mental noise destroys not only your peace, but your very awareness of eternal freedom. Yet even as I speak of this danger, do not despair, for knowing the nature of the restless mind is the first step to transcending it. To awaken in silence it is not beyond you, is your divine destiny. God did not send you into this life to remain a prisoner of thought, but to master it, to ride the horse of the mind until it kneels in stillness before the altar of spirit. But mastery begins with courage, the courage to face your own inner storms, to see clearly how the mind has enslaved you, and to rise above it through divine remembrance. Let us now walk together into this sacred courage, for it will carry you from illusion into the silence where God speaks. Beloved child of the infinite, now that we have uncovered the great illusion of a restless mind, let us understand its cost not only to your peace, but to your very soul. When thought is allowed to run wild, untethered to divine wisdom, it becomes like 1,000 bees buzzing in a small chamber, drowning out the subtle melodies of spirit that are ever playing in your heart. The mind, unchecked, is a master illusionist, weaving a tapestry of Maya that convinces you of separateness, of weakness, of fear. It creates endless desires and countless attachments that bind you more firmly to the wheel of birth and death, making you forget that you are the ever-free, ever-blissful, ever-perfect soul born of God's own light. This constant mental noise drains your prana, the sacred life force that flows through your astral spine. Each thought you allow to swirl without higher guidance is like a tiny hole in the vessel of your vitality. When thoughts scatter in countless directions, your energy leaks away, leaving your body weary, your emotions unstable, and your spiritual clarity clouded. The chakras, those divine portals of consciousness, are disturbed by the ceaseless agitation of mind. Instead of being ladders of ascension, carrying your awareness upward to Christ consciousness at the spiritual eye, They become clogged wheels, turning only in confusion. In this state, divine intuition cannot flow, and without intuition, you are like a ship tossed upon a stormy ocean without sails or rudder. Restlessness of mind also attracts vibrations of disharmony from the world around you. Thoughts are living energies, each radiating a subtle frequency that magnetizes experiences to match it. When your mental field is saturated with anxiety, anger, or fear, you draw to yourself similar vibrations from others and from the unseen realms of energy. This is why so many suffer cycles of negativity and despair. They are caught in the echo of their own unmastered thoughts. Thus, the mind not only robs you of present peace, but constructs karmic patterns that may ripple far beyond this lifetime, binding your soul to lessons you could transcend in an instant of divine silence. But above all else, the greatest tragedy of mental noise is that it blinds you to God's presence. The divine is always near, closer than your own breath, speaking through still intuition, through the quiet joy of the heart, through the luminous vision of superconsciousness. Yet when the mind chatters ceaselessly, it is as if a wall of iron has been erected between you and the beloved. No matter how much you pray, if your mind is not stilled, you cannot hear the answer. No matter how much light pours upon you, if your thoughts are like dust swirling in a sunbeam, you cannot see the radiance. Thus, mental noise does not destroy the soul itself, for the soul is eternal, but it destroys your awareness of the soul, burying it beneath layers of delusion until you forget you were ever free. O beloved one, do not remain chained in this darkness. The masters have shown us the way to silence the mind, to cleanse it of noise, and to make it again a clear, polished mirror reflecting only the light of spirit. This path demands courage and spiritual effort, but the reward is nothing less than freedom, nothing less than divine union. Let us now summon the courage to face our inner turmoil, for only through courage can we step into the stillness that saves the soul. Beloved seeker of the eternal, to silence the mind is not merely an act of quieting surface thoughts, it is a pilgrimage into the very depths of your being, where the ego has long built its fortress of noise. It takes courage, divine courage, to descend into this hidden cave of mental agitation, for the mind, when challenged, does not easily yield its power. When you sit in stillness and attempt to meditate, have you not felt how the restless thoughts multiply, how they clamor louder, as if fearing the silence you are seeking? This is not a failure of your practice, but a natural defense of the egoic mind, which knows that if you enter the great silence of spirit, its dominion will end. True courage, then, is not the bravery of the world, it is not conquering armies or facing physical danger. The highest courage is spiritual, to look directly at the tumult within, without flinching, without running, without drowning in despair. Many seek distraction because they fear the mind's chaos. They cover it with constant activity, with endless stimulation, with shallow comforts. But the devotee of God must do the opposite. Step boldly into the storm and stand still in the presence of one's own thoughts, trusting that behind the tempest there is a sky of perfect peace, radiant with divine light. The masters tell us that you are not your thoughts. You are the silent witness, the divine soul observing the parade of mental images. This truth must become your sword of courage. When dark thoughts arise, memories of failure, fears of the future, self-accusations, or cravings for fleeting pleasures, you must not cower before them, nor identify with them. Instead, lift your gaze inwardly to the spiritual eye, draw a deep breath from the very center of your being, and declare silently, I am not these thoughts. I am the child of God, untouched and eternal. With each repetition, you sever the false chains that thought has wrapped around your soul. Courage is not found in the absence of mental noise, but in your decision to no longer be enslaved by it. Like a mountain that stands immovable while clouds swirl around its peak, you too can learn to stand in divine stillness while thoughts pass before your inner sight. The more you hold to this truth, the more the ego loses its grip, for it cannot control a soul that no longer believes in its illusions. Practice this in quiet moments. Sit upright, spine straight as the altar of spirit, close your eyes softly, and let the mind do as it wishes. Observe without judgment, as though you were watching a distant play. Do not chase thoughts, do not push them away, do not label them good or bad. Simply witness them with the calm strength of the eternal self. Feel that silent presence behind every thought, unchanging, pure, luminous. That is your true nature, and as you rest in it, fear dissolves and courage becomes your very heartbeat. When you cultivate this divine bravery, you prepare the ground for deeper transcendence. The mind begins to quiet not by force but by reverence, bowing naturally before the soul's unwavering presence. Soon, even in life's storms, you will know a serenity no circumstance can disturb. Let us now take this courage and, with the Master's guidance, learn to transcend the restless mind through spiritual action, transforming mental noise into divine stillness. Beloved soul, courage alone is not enough to free you from the tyranny of mental noise. Courage opens the gate, but you must also walk the sacred path of transformation. Many believe that silence of mind can be attained by simply suppressing thoughts or avoiding life's challenges, but this is not the way of spirit. True quietude is born of transcendence, of rising so high in divine awareness that the clamor of thought fades into insignificance, like distant waves no longer able to stir the tranquil depths of the soul. The Masters have revealed that transcendence is not achieved through passivity, it is action, but action of a higher order. It is the divine effort to realign the mind's energy with spirit, to cleanse and uplift it until it serves as a polished mirror of the soul. Let us walk through 3 sacred actions that lead to this transcendence: disidentifying from thoughts, mastering prana through breath and energy control, and attuning the mind to the inner light and sound of God. First, you must understand with unshakable clarity, you are not the mind. Thoughts are passing shadows, mere echoes of sensory experiences and egoic impulses gathered over lifetimes. They are not yourself. You are the silent witness behind them, untouched and eternal. When you meditate and thoughts rise like clouds, do not resist them. Observe them calmly, knowing they are not you. Just as you watch scenes unfold in a dream without truly being those images, so too can you watch the mind's drama without becoming entangled in it. Practice this often. Close your eyes, lift your gaze to the spiritual eye, and silently affirm, I am the observer, not the thinker. As you repeat this, feel a sacred distance forming between your true self and the river of thought. With time, you will notice that the current of mental chatter weakens. What you do not identify with loses its hold over you. Like clouds dispersing before the dawn, thoughts fade when the soul's inner light begins to rise. The second action is to master the flow of prana, the divine life force animating body and mind. Thoughts are not born only of mental habits, they are propelled by restless energy moving through your nervous system. When breath is erratic, the mind cannot be still. But when breath is calm and harmonized, the waters of thought settle into clarity. Sit quietly and practice even count breathing. Inhale to a slow count of 6, hold the breath gently for 6, exhale for 6, and remain in stillness for another 6 before inhaling again. As you do this, imagine golden light flowing upward through your spine, washing over your brain like a stream of divine peace. This sacred rhythm quiets the body's agitation and channels prana towards spiritual awareness. In such balance, the mind grows still like a serene lake, ready to reflect the light of spirit without distortion. Finally, when the mind has been calmed through disidentification and breath control, it becomes sensitive to higher vibrations, the celestial sound and divine light ever present within. In the quiet sanctum of meditation, lift your eyes inwardly toward the spiritual eye and listen closely, not with your ears, but with the soul's awareness. You may begin to perceive a subtle hum, the sound of Aum, resonating through the universe. You may see a star-like light, a beacon of divine guidance shining from the forehead center. These are not imagination, they are signs that your consciousness is rising toward spirit. When you focus upon them, thought ceases naturally, absorbed into the greater silence of divine vibration. Yogananda taught that this inner sound and light are the voice and vision of God calling the soul home. To attune to them is to transcend the mind completely, entering a realm where no restless thought can follow. Through these sacred actions, you begin to know the difference between the noisy realm of ego and the silent expanse of spirit. In time, silence becomes your natural state, not an effort but a way of being. This is the transcendence the masters spoke of, a stillness so deep that no storm of the world or mind can ever shake it again. Beloved soul, having begun to loosen the chains of thought and tasted the quiet breath of transcendence, you must now anchor yourself firmly in the witness consciousness, the unshakable knowing that you are not the storm of your mind, but the sky in which all storms pass and dissolve. Imagine for a moment a mountain standing high above a restless sea. Waves crash, winds howl, yet the mountain remains unmoved, rooted in its own being. So too must you learn to root yourself in the awareness of your eternal self. Each time you meditate and thoughts arise, do not wage war against them. Rather, with the quiet strength of a saint, silently observe and let them drift away like leaves on a gentle river. Practice pausing throughout your day while walking, speaking, or even during work simply to feel the presence of the witness within you. Place your right hand softly upon your heart, close your eyes briefly, and inwardly lift your gaze toward the spiritual eye. Whisper without words, "I am not this thought, nor this fleeting feeling. I am the silent soul, forever untouched." The more you do this, the more your identity shifts. No longer do you feel like a fragile boat tossed by mental tempests. You begin to sense that you are the vast ocean itself, observing waves rise and fall without losing your depth. This witness state is not cold detachment. It is luminous, filled with quiet joy and profound compassion. As you rest more often in this awareness, your mind naturally bows into silence, as though recognizing it can no longer bind you with illusions. This anchoring is not achieved in a single day. It grows as you water it with meditation, devotion, and self-offering to God. Over time, you will notice that even in worldly activity, a part of you remains untouched, serene, and attuned to the infinite. This is the beginning of true spiritual confidence, a calm, knowing that nothing the mind invents can shake the soul established in its own witness consciousness. Beloved, once you have anchored yourself as the silent witness of the mind, you will begin to notice an extraordinary transformation moments where thought itself grows so faint, so subtle, that it seems to melt away entirely. In those sacred pauses, you will feel not emptiness, but fullness, not absence, but the gentle presence of God whispering in the stillness of your heart. This is true prayer, beyond words and mental striving. It is the soul's communion with Spirit, a sacred embrace where no sound or thought is needed, for the language of this union is pure vibration, pure love, pure light. Imagine a still pond high in the mountains, untouched by wind or movement. The sky reflects perfectly upon its glassy surface, and even the smallest star above is mirrored in its depths. When your mind becomes such a pond, undisturbed and tranquil, the vast heavens of spirit reveal themselves within you. In this divine silence, you begin to feel that you are not merely seeking God, you are already one with Him, as a wave is one with the ocean. Your breath slows, your heartbeat becomes a quiet drum in the temple of your being, and you enter a state where time loses meaning. Here, the light of God shines without obstruction, illuminating your consciousness with bliss and understanding that no human intellect could ever attain. Yogananda taught that this communion is the soul's true food. Without it, man hungers endlessly, trying to fill the void with ceaseless thinking, with possessions, ambitions, and fleeting pleasures. But once you taste this inner union, all other hungers fade. You realize that silence is not merely the absence of noise, it is the living presence of Spirit embracing you, guiding you, transforming you from within. In that silence, intuition awakens, and divine wisdom flows like a river, answering every question without a single spoken word. Do not think this is reserved only for saints. This sacred silence belongs to every soul. With devotion, meditation, and the steady practice of turning inward beyond thought, you too will come to live in this communion. And when you do, the restless mind loses all power to destroy your peace, for it has been transformed into a servant of Spirit, a clear channel for divine love to flow into every moment of your life. Beloved child of the infinite, once you have tasted the stillness where Spirit speaks, you must learn to remain anchored in that silence, even as you walk through the world of noise and activity. The ordinary mind is like a neglected instrument, its strings tangled and discordant, producing only harsh and restless sounds. But when you replace the endless chatter of ego with the pure vibration of sacred sound, you retune this inner instrument to play only the music of the divine. Sacred vibration begins with the remembrance of God's name. As you move through your day, silently repeat a holy mantra or the simple prayer of the heart. Beloved God, I am thine. Whisper it within your soul with each breath until it becomes as natural as inhaling and exhaling. Each repetition is like a note of divine music striking your mind's harp, gradually silencing all other dissonant thoughts. Where once the mind shouted countless words of fear, doubt, and desire, now it softly hums with the melody of Spirit's love. Chanting aloud or silently is also a powerful purifier of mental noise. When you sing God's name with devotion, the vibration penetrates deep into your consciousness, loosening the knots of tension and scattering the shadows of restless thought. The masters taught that such sacred chanting is not mere ritual. It is spiritual alchemy, transforming the lead of ordinary thinking into the gold of divine awareness. As sound fills your being with holiness, you will find that silence follows naturally, not the heavy silence of suppression, but the living silence of the soul, radiant with divine joy. In meditation, too, invite sacred sound and light to replace mental chatter. Focus gently on the spiritual eye and listen inwardly for the cosmic vibration of Aum. This holy sound is not imagined. It is the heartbeat of the universe, the voice of God calling you home. When you attune your awareness to Aum, all other thoughts dissolve, and your mind becomes a hollow reed through which only Spirit's music plays. From this sacred attunement arises a silence so profound that you no longer fight the mind, you have transcended it, allowing divine vibration to fill every corner of your being. With practice, sacred vibration will spill into every moment of your life. Walking, working, speaking with others, you will feel the hum of Spirit within you, a quiet mantra playing softly beneath every experience. Mental noise cannot survive in such an atmosphere. Like darkness fleeing before the dawn, restless thoughts vanish when the inner music of God is allowed to play unbroken. In this way, the mind becomes not a destroyer of your soul, but a luminous servant of Spirit, forever resonating with the silent symphony of divine love. Beloved, to live in divine silence is not the fruit of a single meditation or a fleeting moment of grace. It must be nurtured daily, as a gardener tends to a sacred flower. The morning is the holiest doorway of your day, a brief window where the soul has not yet been burdened by worldly thoughts, where the mind is still soft from the rest of sleep. If you begin your day by centering your consciousness in God, you prepare a shield of peace that carries you through every challenge, every noise, every storm that may arise. Before you even rise from your bed, pause for a breath of remembrance. Place your hand over your heart, feel the pulse of divine life beating within you, and silently affirm, I awaken in thy presence. This day belongs to thee. Then sit upright with your spine like a pillar of light. Close your eyes softly and lift your gaze toward the spiritual eye. For a few minutes, do nothing but breathe slow, even breaths flowing like a calm river through your body. With each inhale, silently repeat, God is entering me, and with each exhale, I rest in thee. Now bring your awareness to the inner sound and light of Spirit. Listen for the soft, cosmic hum of Aum that reverberates behind all creation, and allow your mind to merge into that vibration. If thoughts come, let them float away like tiny boats on a vast ocean. You are not those boats, you are the ocean itself, infinite and unmoved. When you feel stillness settling like morning dew upon your soul, let your hands come together in prayer and invite divine guidance for the day ahead. Lord, walk with me in every step, speak through me in every word, and keep my mind anchored in thy peace. This morning ritual does not need to be long. Even 10 minutes offered in true devotion can silence the seeds of mental noise before they grow into weeds. Over time, this practice will sanctify the entire day. The mind, once prone to chaos, will learn to bow before the altar of your heart each morning, and soon, silence will no longer be something you seek. It will be the ground you walk upon, the air you breathe, the living presence of Spirit surrounding you in every hour. Beloved seeker of the infinite, even when the morning has been steeped in prayer and silence, the rushing current of the day can begin to stir old habits of noise and restlessness in the mind. The demands of work, the voices of others, the constant pull of duty, all these can scatter your spiritual focus until you feel like a cup of still water suddenly shaken by unseen hands. But do not despair, for the soul has been given a simple yet profound key to restore peace in an instant. A midday recalibration of consciousness, a holy pause where you return to your eternal self before the world can drag you too far from center. Sometime during your day, perhaps at lunch, during a short break, or even in a moment stolen between tasks, find a quiet corner or remain seated where you are and close your eyes. Place your hand gently upon your chest, near the heart, and feel the life of spirit pulsing there, steady and faithful beneath all the noise. Lift your gaze inwardly to the point between the eyebrows, and draw one long, deep breath, slowly filling your lungs as if inhaling divine light itself. Hold this breath softly for a moment, letting it bathe your mind in stillness. Then release it in a slow exhale, whispering silently, "Peace, peace, peace." Repeat this sacred breath 3 times, and with each cycle, imagine the dust of mental noise settling like golden particles, descending gently to the ground. The swirling thoughts, the pressures of the outer world, the fatigue of your body, all are gathered up and released into God's silence. If your mind is restless and refuses to quiet, introduce a silent mantra, "Beloved God, I am thine." Repeat it inwardly with the rhythm of your breathing until you feel your awareness sink deeper, as though descending into a quiet pool hidden beneath the surface of life. Even in just 2 minutes of this practice, you will feel a shift. Your heartbeat slows, your breath steadies, and your mind once again becomes a servant of the soul, not its tyrant. This recalibration is a gentle reminder that you are not what the world demands of you. You are a radiant spark of spirit, merely playing a role in this earthly drama. The noise of thought and chaos of circumstance cannot touch your true essence. By pausing, breathing, and surrendering inwardly, you remember the eternal silence that walks with you always. When you open your eyes, you will find that your tasks seem lighter, your challenges less daunting, and your interactions filled with more compassion. This midday moment does not take you away from life, it returns you to the divine flow in which all life is sustained. Carry this sacred pause like a hidden jewel in your day, and know that whenever the mind begins to roar, you hold within you the power to silence it with a single breath, a single remembrance of God's peace. Beloved soul, just as the dawn is a holy threshold for inviting divine silence into your day, the night is a sacred portal for dissolving the remnants of mental noise that may have gathered like dust upon your heart. Many people drift into sleep, still entangled in the restless web of thoughts, reliving the day's troubles, worrying about tomorrow, replaying conversations that have long since ended. And so, even in the supposed rest of sleep, the mind continues its ceaseless chattering, leaving the body weary and the soul heavy upon waking. To end your day in peace is therefore not a luxury, but a divine necessity, for it is in the silence of a surrendered mind that God cradles you during the night and heals the hidden wounds of your spirit. As evening comes and you prepare for rest, find a quiet space, perhaps beside your bed or at a small altar where a candle flickers gently in the darkness. Sit upright with your spine long, your eyes half closed, and turned inward toward the spiritual eye. Begin with a few deep cleansing breaths, inhaling slowly as if drawing in heavenly light, and exhaling fully as if releasing every shadow of care and tension. With each breath, imagine your thoughts loosening their grip, falling away like leaves released by the autumn wind. Now, in the stillness of your mind's inner sanctuary, review your day not with judgment or self-reproach, but with calm observation, as if watching a silent film unfold before you. Begin with the most recent moments and trace backward gently to the early hours of the morning. See every event, every reaction, every thought and word, not as triumphs or failures, but as lessons given by the divine teacher. With each scene you revisit, silently offer it upward. Lord, this was thine experience through me. I return it to thee. Purify it, lift it into light. When you have walked backward through the day, let all the images dissolve into a golden mist, as though they were never truly separate from spirit at all. Place your hands softly on your heart and inwardly repeat, I forgive, I release, I rest in thee. Feel the burdens of the day sink into God's infinite stillness, leaving you weightless, luminous, ready to enter sleep not as unconscious escape, but as silent communion with Spirit. As you lie down, turn your gaze slightly upward, and let your final waking thought be a prayer, a whisper to the Beloved. Carry me into thy silence. May my dreams be filled only with thy light. May my soul soar in thee until morning. If you practice this nightly dissolution, you will find that restlessness vanishes from your nights, and you awaken renewed, as if the very hands of God had held you through the darkness and delivered you gently into the dawn. Beloved pilgrim of spirit, you have walked with me through the inner labyrinth of thought, facing the restless mind that seeks to drown the eternal song of your soul. You have seen how mental noise can veil divine presence, how unguarded thinking can lead not only to spiritual fatigue, but to the slow erosion of your remembrance of God. Yet now, having anchored yourself in morning stillness, having learned to recalibrate in the midst of daily chaos, having dissolved the mind's dust before nightfall, you stand at the threshold of a greater realization. Silence is not something you must create or force, it has been the ground of your being all along. This eternal silence is not dead or empty. It is alive with God's infinite presence. It is the cosmic womb from which thought arises and into which it falls again, like waves rising and sinking back into the ocean. Even as the mind chatters and the senses clamor, this silence remains unshaken beneath it all, shining like a hidden star behind the clouds of mental delusion. To discover it is to rediscover yourself, to feel not only moments of peace, but the unbroken truth that you are spirit, beyond the reach of any storm the mind can conjure. Now, let us enter this silence together. Sit tall, spine straight as the altar of the infinite. Close your eyes softly and lift your gaze upward toward the spiritual eye. Breathe once deeply, slowly, as if drawing the light of heaven itself into your being. As you hold that breath, feel all thoughts, all worries, all self-made burdens dissolving like mist in the rising sun. Exhale slowly and inwardly whisper, I am silence. Again, inhale the cosmic breath. Feel divine presence flowing into every cell, every corner of your consciousness. Hold it for a moment as if resting in God's timeless embrace, and release it gently with the affirmation, I am spirit. Now let your breath flow naturally. No effort, no resistance. Listen closely, not with the ears of the body, but with the soul's awareness for the subtle sound of Aum, the eternal vibration humming through every atom of creation. Feel its gentle rhythm in your heartbeat, its quiet music surrounding and filling you. This is the soundless sound of divine silence, the language of spirit that no restless mind can ever speak or disturb. In this silence, there is nothing to fight, nothing to fix, nothing to fear. Here you are already free, already perfect, already one with the infinite. Let your final prayer be this: Beloved God, let me walk forever in this silence. May my thoughts serve thy peace. May my words carry thy stillness. May my every breath remind me that I am never separate from thee. Carry this silence with you now and always. Let it seep into your actions, your speech, your gaze. When the world around you grows loud and the mind tempts you with noise and distraction, remember this eternal refuge. Return here with a single breath, a single remembrance of spirit, and know that nothing can destroy your soul while it rests in divine silence. Go forth, dear one, as a bearer of this heavenly quietude. Let it bless every life you touch. Let it lift your family, your work, your path. And know that in the still chamber of your own heart, the voice of God will always speak, not in the roar of thought, but in the eternal, blissful silence where the soul and the infinite are one.